This is the Financial Beat, helping you hit all the right notes in your financial plan. So sit back as we strike up the band. The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler starts now.
Welcome to the Financial Beat. We got another exciting edition for you here today, and we're going to talk about getting you to and through retirement as always. My name is Ron Stutz, and I am with Logan Sadler, the star of this show. Logan, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Ron. Charged up and ready for a great show here.
I know that last weekend you had an opportunity to have a little relaxing time and, celebrate the Labor Day holiday. And, all of us did a little bit of that, presumably. And this weekend, who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, it's always great to have those extended times and obviously, celebrate the holiday to what it's for. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, it was great. Had a great time. Went out to the river, got to float around a little bit and try to stay cool. But hope you guys had a great holiday listening, and I hope you did as well, Ron.
Oh, absolutely, I did. 888-823-PLAN. 888-823-PLAN is a very important phone number for you to call if you'd like to have a conversation with Logan Sadler about your financial situation. This show, of course, is all about getting ready for your retirement and having the kind of lifestyle you've always wanted in your retirement years. Logan works with 3 different generations of the client families at Regari Financial. Many of those clients have been with the firm for more than 25 years, and they trust Regari with their money and their financial plans. And Logan Sadler would love to get to know you. You can have a no-cost and no-obligation conversation. We call it a discovery meeting. The number to call to make that happen is 888-823-PLAN. Hey, you're a big fan of music, and so am I, and thought today we could talk about some lyrics from some songs out there, and you were so good at this, applying them to financial matters. So you remember this song by Notorious B.I.G., R.I.P., Mo Money, Mo Problems? Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Part of the lyrics in that song, I don't know what they want from me. It's like the more money we come across, the more problems we see. Is that true or false, Logan? Does mo money, in fact, mean mo problems?
Yeah, again, a classic song that I'm sure everyone, whether you like that genre or not, you've heard it, whether you want to, right? It's been played very, very, very heavily over the years. But yeah, that definitely, I think, can be true to some extent. I have one client I'm thinking of when you said that where it really clicked, where he all of a sudden was into a pretty big estate where all of a sudden something had happened in his life, and there was a large sum of money that was paid out to him, and it was around $6 million, and it was a huge, obviously a lot of us out there that's a pretty big amount to most people.
Sounds good to me.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And it was a good amount, but the biggest thing is he was already a guy who made really good money and was probably on his way to maybe getting there at some point. And it's funny because I remember one of the first conversations we had, he was, he was happy he got it, everything worked out, but one of his biggest things was all of these fears and concerns and keeping him up at night is stuff that you would think sounds crazy to most people, but a lot of the times when you go from kind of, just an average lifestyle to all of a sudden you have a big amount of assets on your hands, you have a lot of different things that do run through your mind as far as those problems go. He had like fear of losing it. He was worried, well, what do I do? Do I put it all in real estate? Do I put it all in the market? Or what happens if it goes to zero, or if I lose, if we have a recession? All those things were going through his mind. Now he's like, well, wait a minute. What do I do as far as taxes go in the future? Where's the best place to put this, right? All of those kind of assets go, or all those thoughts go through your head when you obviously are sitting on this amount of a nest egg now. And then all of a sudden, too, he said, well, wait a minute. What happens if something happens to me? This is all going to go to the kids. Yeah. So that brought up a whole nother set of concerns, right? Where this is over several conversations, and it was just like one thing leads to another, and your mind kind of gets going in these different directions. And it was funny. That was one of the biggest things, though, that a lot of us out there that are starting to accumulate stuff, obviously we want to pass things down to our kids. That's one of the whole goals. But then all of a sudden, when you start talking about a large amount of money, think about that. Those of you listening that have kids, let's say those kids are in their 20s. you're not probably wanting to hand down, $6 million or their share of the $6 million to those kids right away, right at 20, right? Most of us aren't in our in our best financial mind in our early 20s. So
not in your right mind.
Not in your right mind. Exactly. I couldn't agree with you more. And so a lot of this was really having to kind of gear up now for getting things, done through, we got them with our attorney for trust and wills and things of that sort, as well as looking at like secondary trustees where if something happened to him, he didn't want his kids having to handle all this and go through this. So it definitely can bring up, the more money you have, it can bring up other problems that a lot of people don't think about until you're kind of thrown in that situation.
Yeah, a perfect example of that is these people who win the lottery and they win millions of dollars and then, 5 years later they're totally broke and, bankrupt. It's crazy.
Yeah. No, it's true. And like you said, it was funny. I remember one year, one of his accounts did really well, and it was like in a non-qualified brokerage account.
Yeah.
And it was funny. One of them did really well one year, and we had to sell some stuff off to do different things. And it was funny because it was like he had this huge amount that was taxable to him. And he was like, well, what do you mean? And it was like, well, you made interest on $6 million, right? So that's a lot of money, right? It's not like when you put, 10 grand in the bank and you earn 10%, right? That's not nearly the amount as on the 6 million. So it just does different things. And like you said, a lot of those lottery winners end up going the other way. So it's important to kind of have all those problems, but it definitely, or have that issue is a good thing, obviously, but it does come with problems.
There's another song out there a lot of people can identify with. Cyndi Lauper did it. It's called Money Changes Everything. Yeah. And part of the words of that song, we think we know what we're doing. That don't mean a thing. It's all in the past now. Money changes everything. Think of a client, if you would, who could truly say that money changed everything for them.
Yeah, I have one that's a sad one, but a positive one. I had some clients. We obviously, those of you listening know, we deal with a lot of different clients that are typically gearing up for retirement. And I actually had one client where their mother passed away, and the mom passed away, and she had done very, very well of accumulating assets, and she left behind. She passed away very early. And she ended up leaving behind a pretty good amount of money to her kids. She had 2 kids, and they both inherited. I want to say it was right around $600,000 apiece, and in their early 20s, which is obviously a huge shell shock for a lot of people, right? They thought it was funny. They thought their mom was broke, right? They didn't know that she had money put away, or that was actually a really good saver. Wow. And so anyway, this completely changed everything, right, for them. I mean, and to be honest, we all know, like we were talking about earlier, in your early ages, you can kind of go one or two ways with money, right? You might get really responsible, try to get educated, get the right people on your team, or you could blow it, right, type thing, or think you're doing the right things, and all of a sudden the money's gone. And these kids, I've never been more proud of 2 younger clients where they really just said, okay, here's my short-term goals, here's my long-term goals, and here's what I really like to do. And it was really amazing because we were able to put together a great plan for these kids where they were able to do the responsible thing, and they did the due diligence and made sure that they really thought about what they want to do long-term. And that was their main focus point. And so it was amazing where now you look at, by the time they're in their 40s or 50s, they're going to be in a situation where that they probably never even dreamed of before. You know what I mean? When you look at putting away over $500,000 each into different investments, getting things set up, and really kind of going over everything, it was just amazing to see how much better they're going to be situated. And obviously they wish they had their mom there, but it was still one of those situations where you can't change what happened. And now what they wanted to do is do the most responsible thing they could that they thought would make their mom proud, which is plan for the future.
Yeah, that is fantastic when you hear a story like that. And
it was pretty uplifting.
Thanks for sharing that. You remember back in about, I guess it was 1985, 1986, there was a group called Pet Shop Boys.
Oh, yeah.
And they had a song called, probably their most famous song was West End Girls, but they had another song that kind of applies to our situation here called Opportunities. Oh, there's a lot of opportunities if you know how to take them. There's a lot of opportunities. If there aren't, you can make them. What financial opportunities do you often see people miss out on?
Yeah, that's a good one. I've seen a lot of people that sometimes they make some extremely high income earners that have made really good money for, not 1 year, not 2 years, but maybe an extended period of time, like 5, 10, or maybe even 20 years. And they to think about down the road. they failed to maybe put away money in the 401k like they should have, or to put maybe as more than they should have been putting in, or maybe even, real estate investments or whatever the case is. But I've seen it more often than not where, I've had clients make $200,000 or $300,000 a year, and they're putting, $5,000 a year into an IRA. They're not really saving for down the road, and they're not really thinking of, this is really, really great right now, but what happens if my income were to change? I could have taken advantage of putting money away this whole time. And it's awesome to enjoy things and have nice stuff, I agree. But at the end of the day, sometimes to retire or to go to that next phase of life, you might need more than just nice stuff, So it's important, I think, where I've seen some people just really kind of miss out on some of these opportunities of taking advantage of putting money away. It's funny. I have some clients where I'm meeting with them right now, and a lot of them have really changed that aspect where all of a sudden they're like, you know what, I should start putting money away, or I should start thinking about the future. I should start getting things set up for when maybe this stops. And we had one client I'll never forget. He told us just years ago. He said, I was working for this company, and this, again, he never made much money his whole life. And all of a sudden he ended up with, at the end of his career, he ended up with a great retirement plan, a lot of assets put away, and just did things right. And I remember asking him, when did you notice things were changing for you? And he said, I'll never forget, he goes, you know what, I was working for this company and I was in sales, and I was selling products and things of that sort. And he goes, and I remember looking at my paycheck one day and going, you know what, this company is paying me way more than I'm worth. He goes, and I better save some of this because it's going to stop one day. And he goes, and you know what? It actually never stopped. He just kept working, kept making more money, and things kept going really, really smooth. And then he ended up retiring, after 20 years, 30 years of doing it. But it was funny. He said, you know what? I knew I was making more money than I was worth. They were paying me way too much money. Wow. But, he's like, I better save because this might end one day. And sometimes it does end. And sometimes in his case, it didn't end. But it's something where you really got to make sure you're kind of optimizing those times in your life to make sure that you're thinking about what's next and not always kind of living in the moment. But yeah, very, very interesting story there. And, I always joke with people, I've kind of, I don't want to say I've heard it all, but I've heard a lot of really great stories from different people in all these different realms. And that's why when you guys come in for that discovery meeting, it's really just kind of a conversation where we're going to sit down, get to understand who you are, what your family is trying to do, and get to understand your values and see what's important to you. And we actually, at that discovery meeting, we offer a complimentary, no obligation, where we kind of sit down, talk, go over what financials you have, what income you have, what you're looking to have down the road, and really kind of put together that full comprehensive plan that looks at all of these variables to make sure everything's in sync for that retirement. So if you're interested in that and you're a radio listener, has been maybe listening for a long time, or maybe this is your first time, I think it's time to make that phone call, and would love to sit down with you at one of our offices or via Zoom and have that discovery meeting.
888-823-PLAN. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call if you'd like to make that happen. Logan and the folks at Regari Financial have two convenient offices, one in Hemet, one in Redlands. You can come in and have a conversation in one of those places, person to person, face to face. And also, you can arrange a Zoom connection if you'd like a Zoom conversation with Logan Sadler. Be happy to do it in whatever way you want to do it. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to make it happen. Now, this get-together, this discovery meeting is not going to cost you one penny, not going to obligate you to do anything at all. Logan Sadler would love to get together with you and have the discovery meeting and give you some ideas, answer some questions for you, and get you on the right track, perhaps give you an assessment of where you are and where you want to be and how you can get there. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call. This show is all about getting you to and through retirement. Logan Sadler will be back with more coming up in just a moment. You're listening to The Financial Beat.
At the end of the day, no one truly understands your financial wants and desires better than you. That's why it's important to have financial independence. This means you can work when you want, you know exactly where your income is coming from, and most importantly, your finances are stable. If this sounds like something you want, well, text the word advice to the number 21000, and Logan Sadler and his team at Regari Financial can provide you with their free guide on achieving financial independence. The free guide will show you how to create an action plan for getting to where you want to be. It'll explain how to calculate a financial independence goal, and it'll define what an ICE egg is and why it's so important. Download it now by texting the word advice to the number 21000. Again, text the word advice to the number 21000 to gain your financial independence today.
Do you ever find yourself skipping through countless songs trying to find the perfect one? Yeah, we've been there too, and know it can be frustrating. Much like skipping through the countless advertisements from other financial advisors, it can seem like there's so much misinformation. But here on the Financial Beat, you can rest assured we're providing you with the best information possible. So don't push skip on this show, because we have some important information coming up.
And the beat goes on. The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, Vice President and Chief Investment Officer at Regary Financial. Hey, listen, at Regary Financial, they have great partnerships with local CPAs, attorneys, real estate agents, mortgage lenders, Medicare specialists to help offer you well-rounded guidance in all things financial. Get a discovery meeting, no cost whatsoever. You can have a meeting in person at one of the offices, Hemet or Redlands, or you can do it via Zoom if you like. Just make a phone call to make it happen, 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-7526. But the easy way to remember it is by using the word PLAN, which is so important, 888-823-PLAN. My name is Ron Stutz. Always love hanging out with Logan during this show every week, and we certainly appreciate you being with us today. Got a quote of the week here for you, Logan, from a comedian who's been around for a very long time by the name of Rita Rudner. And Rita said, they usually have two tellers in my local bank, except when it's very busy, and then they have one. Ain't that the truth?
Yeah, it seems to always be that way, right? Whether it's at the bank or the drive-through line, you see a million people there when it's slow. Whenever you're maybe even in a rush, it seems like there's only one person in there, right? Or things are moving extra slow. It's funny how he said that though, because that does tend to be my experience as well.
Sort of the grocery store, same thing. You go there, they have two lines open or something.
Well, have you ever seen where they have like express checkout where it's like under 20 items or whatever it is?
Oh man!
Whenever I have a bunch of items, if I look over, there's nobody there. And then the other day, I remember I went in just to grab one thing, and I'm waiting in line, and I go to the express checkout, and there was like 30 people in the express checkout. It's like, oh, yeah, of course.
Always works out that way. I don't know.
It does.
Hey, listen, one of the ththings that I'm not proud of in particular, it's not one of the things I enjoy doing, but one of my responsibilities at my house is taking out the trash. How about you?
Yeah, that actually is on my list of chores I'm supposed to do as well.
And, sometimes I don't do it as regularly as I should, but, it's one of the things that falls into my responsibility. Sometimes you need to go through your financial life and take out the trash. So I thought today on the show we could talk about the things that you might need to throw out. Number one on the list should be debt. You should definitely get rid of as much of that as you can in most cases, right?
Yeah, you're right on the nose there, Ron. Hit it right on the nose. There's, debt. When you look at debt, there's several different forms of debt. And you see some of these people on, social media, or maybe you're hearing some of these people where, debt is good. Debt is good. There's good debt. Well, there is some good debt. But most of the time, most of the average consumer out there, debt is bad, right? Where most of the time we have bad debt. Very few of us have good debt. And when I think of high debt or bad debt, I think of high interest credit cards, right?
Yeah.
You see there's a lot of credit cards out there where, I get points back and I can't make the payment on time every month, but I at least do the minimum or whatnot. And it's like, well, yeah, I hate to break it to you, but let's say they're giving you 5% cash back. Mm-hmm. They might be charging you, 18, 20% interest. So they're doing okay, right? So you want to look at the high interest credit card debt is definitely one of those that you want to kind of try to stay down on because, like I said, they're typically winning in that game. And then there's also stuff like, high interest car loans. I've seen some people out there with a 8%, 10% car loan, or maybe a trailer or off-road vehicle of some sort. You want to make sure you're keeping all that debt low as possible because let's say you're paying $40,000 for that car, which, believe it or not, most new cars nowadays starting at that amount, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
It's crazy. It's like buying a small condo or something. But, it's one of those things where you want to make sure you're keeping that debt as low as possible because it's one of those things where I talk with a lot of clients and sometimes that debt is really holding them down and they're not really aware of how much it's holding them down, right? I always tell them, let's say your investment accounts are earning, 5%, let's just say. Well, I mean, you're paying out more in interest to these other things than you're making on anything you have invested or anything that's working for you. So you want to make sure you're looking at all the debt. I always tell people when we're getting ready to retire, it's such a great time to really take a look at everything. And, I know some people are like, well, should I pay off my mortgage? Should I do this? Well, it depends on your situation. But most of the time we want to look at a lot of those high interest debts and make sure that we're keeping those low as possible or getting rid of them completely to make sure you're, throwing out the trash and staying on track and getting your chores done.
And if you have a mortgage and you have a very low interest rate, that may be a good debt to have, to hang on to that. And, don't worry so much about that one, but just worry about those that have high interest rates for sure. Of course, everybody's situation is different, and Logan would love to talk to you about your situation. The Financial Beat number, once again, is 888-823-PLAN. I'll give you that number again coming up in just a few minutes. We're talking about taking out the trash, which nobody really likes to do, but it's necessary. No. You might want to take the risk out of your portfolio. You may have way too much risk in there, and a lot of people have no idea how much risk they have.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Some people are just not comfortable with a lot of risk. I mean, obviously, I think some risk is good, and sometimes a lot of risk is good. It just depends on where you're at and where you're at along the journey and what your comfortability is. But one thing I know is that, like you said, Ron, is I think a lot of the time I'm finding that most of the time, I should say, that most people don't understand how much risk they currently have until you experience market volatility and they go, you know what? Last month or this year, my account went down 15% or 20%. I just thought that was way too much compared to how much risk I thought I was taking or what I thought this account could do. I didn't know it was structured where it can go down that much, right? We hear that, a lot of the viewer questions we listen to, that's pretty much right in line, right, Ron?
Yeah, exactly. And also a lot of people, one thing that a lot of people are unaware of is hidden fees. In their portfolio, or unnecessarily high fees. And that's a big shock to some folks when they come in and talk to you.
Yeah, you're totally right. It's funny because we have a report we'll run a lot of the times where we'll show what their risk is in their portfolio, as well as it's able to pull up some of those fund expense fees and other types of miscellaneous fees that might be in the account. And those two, I would say, is typically risk and fees is typically the time when most people have no idea how much risk they're taking or what the cost is of that portfolio. And I'll give you an example. I had a client the other day who came in, and it was funny. We were doing a full breakdown of everything, and they've had one of these variable annuities for quite some time. And again, I'm not one of those people that say this investment's bad or this investment's good. It just depends on what you're using it for and what the goal of that money is and if it's a value to you. And it was funny. So I was actually running through everything. Again, risk was way off, right? They thought they would be maybe in that more moderate range, let's say 50 to 60. And it was funny, of course, I would do the risk report. They're at almost an 80. So they're extremely aggressive, as well as I was able to look at the variable annuity they had. They were paying with fund expenses and all the other extra add-ons they had on that. They were paying 3.7% per year in annual fees, right? So it's like, when you look at that, it's like he had no idea that they were paying that much. It's one of those things where, he's had that for, I want to say it was like 12 or 13 years he's been paying that. So the account, the funds he's in and stuff has only performed about 3.5% because, of course, it was closer to almost 7%. But because of the fees and stuff, it was really dragging that down over an extended period of time. And it had all these extra add-ons and things on there that the client wasn't even wanting to use it for. So, you're kind of paying a lot of money for this thing or this investment for all these extra bonuses that you're not even looking to take advantage of. So you just want to make sure you're very aware of what type of risk you have and how much is it costing me.
You're listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, VP, Chief Investment Officer at Regari Financial. Wherever you are in Southern California, we appreciate your listening today. We're talking about taking out the trash. And one final topic as far as this is concerned, Logan, is, let me just start by saying there are some good advisors out there. We recognize Logan is not the only good advisor out there in the state of California. There are some good advisors out there. There's some good brokers as well who are looking out for you. Well, a lot of those folks also are not looking out for you. They're looking out for themselves instead of their clients. And Logan Sadler is a fiduciary, which means that he is required and has your best interest at heart.
Yeah. Yeah, great point there, Ron. Like you said, it's something where there is a lot of really great advisors out there, brokers, insurance people, everything like that. That really do the job right. Like I said, I actually am in a lot of these groups where I meet with a lot of the other people in the industry, and I know there's some good ones out there, that's for sure. But, there's a lot of people who necessarily aren't looking out for your best interest. And one thing I realized a long time ago is, let's be honest, right? When you look around in this world, in any industry, you look at, there's somebody that provides, they're trying to sell you services or products, right? Pretty much in every industry in the world. And so that's okay. I think a lot of people are okay with that. But very often you see a lot of people maybe selling a service or a product that doesn't fit what you're trying to do, or maybe they're not looking out for what your best interests are. They might just be trying to put you in front of a product or a service. So I think it's very important that's why we developed our system a long time ago, where we have, 2 or 3 meetings before a client even ever comes on board with our firm to make sure it's a good fit for the client, to make sure that, number one, that it's a good fit for the client, number two, to make sure that it's a good fit for us, because we want to make sure that we're providing you with the best service and that you fit kind of what we're trying to do, as well as we got to understand who you are, right? What are your goals? What are your dreams? We understand we're not the advisor out there for every single person in the world. So we want to make sure that we're finding the right fit for our firm, but also it's important for you as the client. You're interviewing advisors or maybe just one person. You want to make sure that person and that firm's the right fit for you. So, like I said, there's some good ones out there, but if you're one of those clients that feels like, or one of those listeners who feels like, I'm not sure if I'm getting what I need for where I'm at this stage, or I'm not sure if this advisor I'm working with is putting me in the best investments for what I'm trying to accomplish, whether that's now or long-term or whenever that was. I think it's important to give us a call. Like I said, the discovery meeting was intended really for a lot of you radio listeners out there that are looking for an opportunity to maybe sit down with an advisor to look at what else is out there, what type of planning services are out there, and really making sure that you have maybe your current advisor that makes sure you have the right fit. If not, that's what that discovery meeting's for, is to kind of unfold, ask some questions, for you to get to know us to get to know you, and really take a look at if we think we could bring value to you and your firm, and then or you and your family, and see how we can go from there to, again, provide that value maybe moving forward.
Okay, very important phone number to call, 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-7526. But the easy way to remember it is by using the word plan, which we all need. You need a plan getting to and through retirement. Logan Sadler is the guy to see, the Vice President, Chief Investment Officer at Regari Financial, wherever you happen to be in Southern California. Office is in Hemet and also in Redlands. And if you'd like to visit in one of those locations, that would be great for the discovery meeting. Or you may want to have a Zoom connection. Logan does those all the time, willing to make it work however you want it to work. And it's not going to cost you anything and not going to obligate you to do anything at all. And with Logan Sadler, you always get honesty. He's not going to try to push any products off on you or obligate you to, sign anything, any of that stuff. In the beginning, it's just kind of a getting to know you session. It's called a discovery meeting. You discover things about him, he discovers things about you, and you decide if you'd like to work together. It's just that simple. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to make that happen. Ron Stutz here on the radio with Logan Sadler. The name of our show is The Financial Beat, and we'll have more of it coming up in just a moment.
Are you concerned about living too long? Do you worry about the cost of health care in the future? These are a few of the signs that permanent life insurance could be for you. Logan Sadler of Regari Financial will help you recognize the rest of the signs. Text the word ADVICE to the number 21000 to download this free guide to understanding permanent life insurance. Text ADVICE to 21000. Permanent life insurance isn't for everyone, but it could make a dramatic difference in your financial life. Text ADVICE to 21000 to find out if that's the case.
Hi, I'm a cleverly devised personification of Wall Street. I'm one wild roller coaster ride away from wreaking havoc on your investments, and I love to mess with your emotions. If you're not properly diversified, you can bet I'll keep you up all night thinking about me. If you want to keep me off your mind, you really need a trusted advisor who'll look after your best interests. You also need a custom-designed financial plan that'll protect you from market volatility. Otherwise, when I take a plunge, I'll send you scrambling through your filing cabinet, hoping you were well prepared. Don't wait for turmoil to hit.
In Southern California, call Logan Sadler and the Regari Financial Team at 888-823-PLAN. That's 888-823-7526.
Did you know music is good for the heart? A study at a university in Italy showed that music helps promote a better cardiovascular system. But we also know that a sound financial plan is good for peace of mind. Keep listening to the Financial Beat so we can help you find a plan that both your head and your heart can agree on.
You're listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, Regari Financial. And Logan, when's the last time you went to a family reunion?
That's a good question. What's funny is our family we really don't do a family reunion, or we haven't since that I know of.
Yeah.
But we typically do a big Christmas party. Mm-hmm. Typically every year on both sides we try to do. My mom's side will do a big Christmas party, as well as on my dad's side. Sometimes on my dad's side, in the older days, it used to be over 80, 100 people would get together. So
wow.
We have a pretty large family on that side. But we try to do it every Christmas, get all sides together and link up and celebrate the holidays. But we haven't had those traditional, middle of the year family reunions that I think some other families do, which I think is awesome. But typically every Christmas we try to link up.
Well, it sounds like what you do is an awful lot of fun. So hope you do it forever.
Yeah, absolutely. Who doesn't enjoy a good family get together?
Oh, exactly. Well, you're listening to the Financial Beat. Logan Sadler will be right back with more in just a moment.
We all know Congress has approved trillions of dollars in spending the past year with stimulus packages, infrastructure plans, and other programs. It's all on top of the tens of trillions of dollars of debt our nation already owes. Yet we're living with some of the lowest tax rates in history. Now, how long do you think that's going to last? Learn how you can prepare for future tax implications by watching Logan Sadler of Regari Financial's exclusive webinar, How Tax Planning Changes Through the 4 Stages of Retirement. Just text the word advice to the number 21,000, and we'll text you back a link to the webinar right away. Text advice to 21,000 and make sure you don't have to pay a cent more in taxes than you have to. To access the free webinar right now, text advice to 21,000.
What is your name?
I'm Arthur, King of the Britons.
What is your quest?
To get retirement ready.
What is the PE ratio on your portfolio's top grossing products?
I don't know that.
Don't get blown to bits by complex jargon. Let Logan help you over the bridge to a meaningful retirement.
Welcome back to more of the Financial Beat. Logan Sadler is on the radio. Go tell everybody you know. And the important phone number to call to get in touch with Logan Sadler and his office at Regari Financial is 888-823-PLAN, 888-823-PLAN. And I will give you that number again, and of course, several times during the show because it's so important. It's important to get that discovery meeting going. You've taken the right first step by listening to the show, but the next step on the way is by calling that number, 888-823-PLAN. Not only does Logan Sadler have this radio show he does every week, but he's available on podcasts and YouTube videos. Folks want to access those, and they can do it pretty much anytime. And Logan, how do they go about doing that?
Yeah, the YouTube videos, something we started here again recently where we've been wanting to kind of maybe dive more into depth on maybe one topic or one type of discussion. So you can actually head over to YouTube, type in The Financial Beat, and we have some great educational content on there on how to hedge inflation, what are ETFs, what are mutual funds, how to maybe plan for risk in retirement. A lot of good videos like that. So you can head over to YouTube, type in The Financial Beat, as well as we have the podcast that's uploaded each week on YouTube and the podcast platform. So Apple Music, Amazon, Spotify, wherever it is you download podcasts. And we have over 70 episodes now recorded and put up there on the podcast platform. So again, just good education and good content for you to check out at your convenience.
Those are some of the things you can do for your own self-gratification and education, in addition to listening to this radio show. But the most immediate thing you can do, I suppose, is call this phone number, 888-823-PLAN, and get a discovery meeting going with Logan Sadler. There are ways you can sabotage yourself in the financial world out there. With all the things in the financial world that you can't control, why would you sabotage your own retirement by messing up the things that you can control? So today we're going to talk about some ways that people sabotage their own financial health. Number one, Logan, a lot of people out there obsess about short-term ups and downs in the market, and that will absolutely drive you crazy.
Absolutely drive you crazy. Great way to put it. I think a lot of the people out there that obsess over the short-term ups and downs, they kind of fit into a couple different categories there, right? Where I feel either maybe it's lack of education on what you're invested in or how those accounts you're in might work. And the other thing is not understanding the long-term capability of that investment. So, I always tell people, listen, if you're 30 to 50 years old and, you're looking at the long term, a lot of the investments you're making, let's say it's a 401k, you want to make sure that you're putting your money into something that has a very good chance of long-term potential growth and has a good track record, right? So you want to make sure you're investing in things that you feel will be around a long time, maybe even index funds like the S&P, the Dow, things like that, right? Where you feel comfortable long-term. If you're 50 to 70, you might find yourself in a little bit different of a point, right? Or maybe even 70 plus, where you're getting ready to retire, or maybe you're already retired, and you're looking at, you want to make sure those investments that you're in, if you're checking the market every single day because you got to fund your goals through the market or through the potential performance, that's where you find yourself getting that heartburn, right? Where maybe you're watching a little too much news, and maybe you have a little more risk than you actually are aware of, or maybe more than you're actually comfortable with. And I always say, when you're building that retirement plan, this should all kind of lump into there, where you want to make sure, even when you're investing in retirement, a lot of the times you should have most of your money where you're still looking longer term. Because let's say you are 60 years old, right? The chances are you have a pretty good shot of you being alive till close to life expectancy, or for some of us, maybe longer than life expectancy. So it's super important to make sure that we have a portfolio that's going to do well over an extended period of time, but it's also got to fit your risk tolerance. And it's also got to make sure it fits your lifestyle, your needs, and also your risk. So I think it's super important when you're building a plan. If you're stressing about the short-term market ups and downs, I always say it's probably because either one, you're not super educated in that area, or not super comfortable with those investments, or you might not have a full retirement plan. You might just have a couple different types of investments that you're hoping do well. So I think it's important to look more broader scope and look more comprehensive at the outcomes.
We're talking about ways that you can really screw yourself up by, making the wrong decision or whatever the case may be. And you can actually leave a lot of money on the table if you don't start Social Security at the right time. And that's a very important decision to make. And a lot of people don't really think about it that much. They think, hey, I'm 62, I'm going to start it right away. But that's not good for everybody, is it?
No, you're right. It's funny you mentioned that 62. I had a prospect that came in the other day. She's kind of interviewing our firm and seeing if we're a good fit for each other. And it was funny because she's actually done really well putting money away and in the right situation. And it was funny. So she actually she said, I started Social Security at 62 because I've always heard that's the best time to start it. So I started Social Security. She's now 69 and getting ready to retire next month. So she'll be closer to 70 when she's ready to retire. Yeah. She started drawing that Social Security at 62. Again, she's single and, not right or wrong, but I just look at the math there. That's Social Security, what she was doing with it, because she was actually still working. She just took the money and put it into the bank. Right. And I was like, okay. Mm-hmm. So I'm hearing her out. Right. So she said, okay, I just took all the money every month and put it in the bank to make sure that at least I got my Social Security. And so she took it at 62. For those of you that don't know, she made over the minimum amount. So her Social Security was heavily taxed until her full retirement age. And she put the money in the bank. And one thing I always kind of relate this to is she was putting it into cash, which again didn't earn anything. It might have even lost money due to inflation, right? And when I tell people that Social Security actually goes up each year you wait by about 8% per year. Yeah. So if you're at that point where you're not ready to retire or you don't need all of that money at this point, where else were you going to put that money that gave you a guaranteed return of 8%? Right. So in her case, I kind of explained to her that I don't think it was the best thing for you to draw at that point. Obviously, the decision was done years ago, so we got to make the best with it. But I think that's why it's so important before you do any of those financial things like take a pension payout, whether that's lump sum or the monthly payment, or whether that's Social Security, investment options, income planning, all of that. You got to really make sure you're plugging it into your situation and make sure that it's the best situation for what you're going to face.
Such an important decision to make, for sure. And, we've said so many times on this show, a lot of people don't like to think about being in a nursing home or any kind of care
I know
facility.
I don't.
No, you don't even like to think about it, much less talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of people out there pretend that the risk of a nursing home stay is so far off in the future, so many years away, that they don't need to think about it right now. And a lot of people think, well, it's never going to happen to me anyway, and that can be a real mistake.
Yeah, Ron, you're right. I mean, some of us out there that, we don't want to think about the nursing home. We don't want to think about that type of stuff long term. But I have some clients that come in and they might be 50 years old or 55 years old. And we're getting started and getting everything ready for retirement, looking at cash flow projections, right? Income, all that stuff, looking at our asset allocation of our investments. The last thing a lot of people want to talk about is a nursing home. And it's something where, believe it or not, it comes faster than we want it to come. And the odds of us going into one of those facilities or having to experience that is very high for our lifetime. I had a client that was 74 years old, and she actually went into nursing home, full-blown nursing home. And for a lot of us out there, that's super, super young to have to even worry about that for most people. Most of the time it happens in their late 80s, maybe even 90 years old in some cases, or maybe even later 70s. But it was something where she might have thought she had years to plan for that, and all of a sudden it was here before you knew it. So it's something where when we talk about nursing care, when we're looking at our financial plan, a lot of us might have considered maybe income planning or how much we'll need in retirement, but a lot of us don't factor in what happens if taxes go up, right? What happens if nursing home care comes into play? How is that going to affect our cash flows in the future? It might severely deplete it. And it's something where some of us might not have the money to fund that. And if we did, a lot of the times we might have rather left that money behind to charities or to our, to our kids or our state, things of that sort. So it's something where we really got to have that conversation to make sure that we're, again, looking at one of those risks that definitely could come up in retirement, and for a lot of us probably will.
Logan, a lot of people out there never really enjoy their job. I mean, they do some job their whole career, and they don't really enjoy it. And then on the other hand, there are people who actually enjoy what they do. They love their jobs. But it could be a mistake to assume, I know that you're fit into that category.
Absolutely.
But it can be a mistake to assume that just because you like your job right now means that you'll always love it and you never want to retire. But circumstances change, and that may be different down the road a few years.
Yeah, you're right on the line there. And I always tell people there's two things, right? You might not want to do it at some point, or you might not be able to do it at some point, right? Yeah. There's a couple of things that might happen there. Either your passion's gone, or maybe health doesn't permit that, or maybe you have family things that are going on where you're not able to be at that job anymore. So that, retirement for 99% of us is going to have to come at some point. And I always say the alternative is we maybe pass away early. That's not a great alternative in my opinion. So you look at retirement planning, we may love our job and we may never plan to retire, but if we did, how are we going to do that? How would that align? What types of assets and what types of income and what types of planning need to be done ahead of time to put ourselves in that right comfort zone? And it's funny, I work with a lot of business owners, and a lot of business owners are guilty of this. Where again, I throw myself in this category where I love to work, I love my job, but you also got to plan for what happens if you no longer can run that business? What happens if you no longer could show up to work? What happens if you pass away? What's left over for your wife? Because your wife might not want to go back to work, right? Or your husband might not want to go back to work. He might want to retire, or she might want to retire. So you got to look at all those variables that are out there and making sure that we're not just kind of sabotaging ourselves and just delaying that until all of a sudden it's, man, you know what? I had a huge health issue. I can't go back to work. I wish I'd have planned a little better for retirement, right? You don't want to be lumped into that category. You want to be able to say, if I'm able to work and I want to work, then I'll work. But if I don't want to work or I don't have to, I could retire. I put myself in a situation where I can go either way, is where you want to line up with and not sabotage yourself into that other mindset.
When you retire, it's necessary to have an income plan. You need to know how much money is going to come in, and a lot of people don't really identify how much they're going to need to spend for the rest of their life to have the lifestyle that they want. They may want to maintain the same lifestyle they have, or they may even want to spend more money in retirement by doing a lot of traveling and all that kind of thing. And you put together an income plan, and that takes care of that.
You're totally right. Again, you're right on. You're pretty much right on all these, Ron. You've been listening to the show. No.
Even a blind squirrel finds an acorn every now and then.
That's great. I think it is really important, though, to where I always tell people one of the first things we do at our discovery meeting is jumping into, you have to identify how you want to spend the rest of your life and what your lifestyle will be. Your retirement plan does not need to just fit your risk, right? Or it does not need to just fit your income plan. It's got to fit your lifestyle. It's got to fit your goals. It's got to fit your values, and it's got to fit your needs. And I feel that's super important when you're putting together one of these comprehensive plans to make sure that, again, we're looking at all those other attributes as well as looking at those 4 things I just mentioned. Because it's funny, because I'll have some clients that come in and they'll say, I'm ready to retire, this, that, and the other. And I'll say, okay, have you thought about how much do you need per month to cover all your bills and expenses? A lot of them go, well, I'm not really sure. It might be $5,000 a month. It might be $8,000 or $10,000, whatever it is for the, whatever it is. A lot of the times it might be way off, so you want to make sure that you're looking at all those things to get an income plan structured, to get your financial plan structured, but also you need to know how much are you going to spend each year? How do you want your lifestyle to be? Again, lifestyle, goals, values, and needs. You want to make sure that your retirement plan covers all of those 4 things. And I think that's one thing that we do really well when we're meeting with our clients, is to make sure that, listen, we're getting ready to retire. We know a lot of the times we've been working on this for years to make sure everything's situated. Maybe we have our safe money. Maybe we have our money in the market. Maybe we even have some passive real estate investments, right? We have a lot of different things we could plug in and play with there to make sure that we're kind of creating that lifestyle that we envisioned, as well as allowing us to spend with confidence into retirement. And that's what we offer. So those of you out there, again, listen to the show. Maybe you haven't came in yet and done that discovery meeting, but if you're getting close to retirement, maybe just started retirement or it's coming up here on the horizon, I think, one of the best things you could do is make that call for the discovery meeting. Whether you have an advisor or not, it'd be a great time to establish maybe a potential relationship and just kind of look at what we can bring to the table from an investment advisory standpoint, as well as from a comprehensive planning standpoint. We're licensed to do kind of anything else that's out there in the market space, whether that's safe money, insurance products, market money, whatever it is. And what we really focus on more is the financial planning, to making sure that we're putting something in place that's going to allow you and your family to enjoy that retirement, how you envision it, and allow you to spend with confidence throughout it.
888-823-PLAN, 888-823-PLAN. If you like a discovery meeting, it's just that easy. Call that number, leave your name and phone number. You'll get a call back, and then you're on your way. You can have a one-on-one conversation with Logan Sadler about your financial situation. Logan, of course, is the Vice President and Chief Investment Officer at Gary Financial. Offices in Hemet and Redlands. So you'd like to visit one of those offices, or you can have a Zoom connection, or you may just want to start off with a phone call to get some answers to some of your questions. A discovery meeting is not going to cost you a penny and not going to obligate you to do anything at all beyond that. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to make it happen. You're listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, Gary Financial. We'll be right back.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of a plan that has some serious issues. Much better. That's the sound of a plan that was created by someone listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. So which sound is your financial plan making?
We're back now with more of the Financial Beat, and the beat goes on, as they say. Logan Sadler is on the radio, and thank you so much for being with us today. Whether you're in Rancho Cucamonga, Banning, Temecula, Menifee, wherever you happen to be, thank you so much. 888-823-PLAN. Logan has offices in Redlands and also Hemet, but you can arrange a conversation with Logan Sadler at this phone number, 888-823-PLAN. 888-823-PLAN, your number to call to make it happen. It's a discovery meeting. It's not going to cost you a penny and not going to obligate you to do anything at all. 888-823-PLAN. Hey, Logan, time to go to the mailbag because we have some great questions. First one is from Louise in Big Bear. And Louise says, I own my own business and probably reinvest too much into the business instead of saving for my retirement. How much do you think I should be saving every year?
Yeah, that's a great question, Louise. Thanks for writing in. And one of the things I would say on this is, again, we talked a lot about business in this episode here, and it's something where being a business owner is a great thing, but like you said, it's great to reinvest. One of the biggest things I think that a lot of business owners might not do is they don't reinvest into their company, right? You got to always be adding new value, whether that's bringing in new people, offering new services, but whatever it is in your industry, you want to make sure you're kind of keeping up with. But after that, you also want to make sure you got to reinvest in the business, but you also got to invest in yourself for the long term. So you want to make sure you're looking at putting money away for your retirement. Yes, your business might be worth a value, and we have a lot of clients where we actually have a business evaluation tool we could use to see how much potentially your business could be worth down the road, because it might not be worth as much as you thought. It might be worth way more than you thought. So, it's a nice thing where we can kind of plug in there. But the next thing you want to do after you've got your business structured, after you're reinvesting in the businesses, you also got to think about yourself. You got to look at, if you're a big business, you got to look at a 401k. If it's just you, maybe even a solo K or an IRA or whatever type of situation might fit you. But it really comes down to how much income does your business generate for you? How much income do you make? And that's where I'd be able to kind of determine how much you should be saving. But, for a lot of you out there, we should be saving a minimum of anywhere from 10 to maybe 20% of our income in some cases. Some people only save 10% because they have a high income. That's great. But you really want to make sure you're looking at down the road putting away money. So I would really look at maxing out maybe even a 401k, a solo K, or a Roth IRA, or whatever fits your kind of needs there. I'd have to know a little bit more about you and your income to give you an exact dollar amount, but you want to at least start with maybe saving 10% or so of your income for not for your next house or anything like that, but for down the road and for that retirement when your business isn't as successful, or maybe when you're shutting down shop and sailing off in the sunset.
Louise, if you can arrange to have a discovery meeting with Logan Sadler, you can get much more specific answers to your specific questions, and you can find out the numbers and all that sort of thing, and you're going to enjoy that conversation anyway. Logan's a good guy, same guy you hear on the radio show here. It's going to be a very relaxing getting to know you session. So again, call that number 888-823-PLAN. Got one more question today, and it comes from San Jose. Dan says, I have investments in the stock market, 2 rental properties, and some gold in my safe at home. So I guess I'm diversified, but I'd like to diversify even more. Logan, what else should I be looking at?
Yeah, great question, Dan. Diversification, I feel, is one of the most important things that you could look at, and it's a great thing to kind of unpack here. So we'll dive into it. I love that question. It's a great one. First off, I would say the market, right? It's great you said you have some money in the stock market, but there's also several different ways to potentially diversify throughout the stock market, right? You have large cap, you got small cap, you got mid cap, you also have international, right? You have emerging markets, you have a lot of different segments, you got value stuff, you have a lot of different segments you can kind of diversify throughout the market. I would always make, you got technology, you got consumer goods, all of that stuff. So number one is I would reassess your diversification in the market. Number two, you also have bonds that you could look at that are also potentially in the market. You got short-term, long-term, right, investment grade, junk bonds. You got all that different stuff. And then there's also real estate. You said you got some rental properties. In real estate, there's some different ways to diversify. You got different types of REITs and things out there that give you access to potentially commercial, residential, industrial, right? So there's a lot of different ways you could diversify in your current segments. And then when you want to go to to diversify potentially further, you have obviously cash alternatives. You got fixed index annuities, which are a great alternative for some of those clients where, I always say that fits more into the safe money category. If you're looking for something that, I want some potential return during good market years, or if that index does good, but I don't want to suffer any losses. Maybe safety of principal is kind of the goal for that money. Those can fit in really well, as well as fixed annuities. Those are like a kind of like a CD on steroids, I call them, where, they're looking at types of, they kind of give you a guaranteed return each year type thing, based off that insurance company. Some of them pay 3%, 4%. I'm seeing some really close to 5% right now that they pay annually, and they're like a 3-year term, or just kind of depends on what company's out there. But there's so many different ways. That's kind of what I was getting at. There's so many different ways to diversify. I would say, really it's more important to kind of looking at what you have, what segments you're in, as well as looking at what your goal for the money is. You don't it's good to diversify, but also making sure you're identifying what the goal is with each of the money, and as well as how much money we're talking, to make sure that, we don't want to put $5 into a fixed annuity. But if you're looking at larger chunks, you want to diversify in different segments, all that stuff kind of comes into play when you're looking at diversification. But I think you're on track there. Sounds like you got a great start to the portfolio there with the market, rental properties, gold, a lot of that stuff. So I would love to kind of maybe take a deep dive into figuring out more of what your goal is for that money, and what types of purposes we're putting it away for, and then I'd be able to come up with a little bit better of an investment recommendation for you.
Well, my goodness, the best thing to do is to call 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-PLAN. Have a conversation with Logan Sadler. It's not going to cost you anything. There's no obligation, no strings attached. Call 888-823-PLAN. Get to know Logan. He can get to know you. You can find out if you'd like to work together. Now, again, there's no pressure, no salesmanship, nothing like that. It's just kind of a getting to know you conversation. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call. Logan Sadler is the Vice President and Chief Investment Officer at Regari Financial, serving you wherever you happen to be in Southern California. Of course, it's all about getting to and through retirement, doing it in the most tax-efficient way possible, and making it efficient in every way. And Logan, I know you've reached a lot of people today, some good things to talk about. I feel as if we've provided a good show today, and I'm already looking forward to next week's show.
Yeah, for those of you out there listening, we appreciate you stopping by, whether it's your first time or maybe it's your, many times. But I appreciate you stopping by. Hopefully you found the show educational this week. And guess what? If you did, we'll be back here again next week with another show, and I'm looking forward to it.
And don't forget, you can also check out those podcasts that are available through wherever you get your podcasts. And also, there are YouTube videos out there with Logan Sadler's smiling face. So, hey, keep it real.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you next week.
The information provided is for educational purposes only and is not intended as investment advice for anyone. All information discussed is believed to be from reliable sources. However, we make no representation as to its completeness or accuracy. The views presented today are those of BD Financial Group and do not necessarily represent the views of Alpha Star Capital Management, LLC. The opinions expressed are subject to change without notice and do not constitute financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult with your financial professional before executing any financial strategy. Investment advisory and financial planning services are offered through Alpha Star Capital Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Alpha Star and BD Financial Group are independent entities. SEC registration does not constitute an endorsement of the firm by the Commission, nor does it indicate that the advisor has attained a particular level of skill or ability.